Welcome to Lifestyle Solopreneur, the community for entrepreneurs who put lifestyle first. Join your host, Flavia Barris, as she interviews successful lifestyle solopreneurs and shares ideas to help you find the perfect balance between lifestyle, business, and self. Flavia is an attorney, marketing expert, and founder of several online academies. She's been featured in major media, including BBC World News, The Wall Street Journal, The New York Post, ESPN Television, and more. Join us for this episode of Lifestyle Solopreneur.
Hey, Lifestyle Solopreneurs. Today we get to speak with Cris Greer. She had a lengthy career in sales and marketing, and then she accidentally started her own creative agency in 2015 that has grown and now includes her husband and son. It's a family business now. Together, they help clients launch online programs, create email funnels, manage their podcast, YouTube, and more. When Cris is not cuddled up at home with her dog, a good book, and a glass of wine, she's often traipsing around foreign lands with her husband and son, exploring and learning from different cultures and belief systems. Welcome to the show, Cris.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to have a fun conversation today.
It's always great to talk to you. I wanted to know a little bit about your podcast because I know you do have a podcast of your own, and clearly everyone listening to this show loves podcasts. So tell us about it.
Thank you. So my podcast is called Grounding Journey, and it like everything kind of started as an accident. We had a couple clients. So my main job is we have a creative agency, as you mentioned, and I had a couple clients who wanted to start podcasting. So my son was 20. He was graduating with his associates. He didn't know what he wanted to do with the rest of his life. So we were excited not to spend the cash on his university when he didn't know what he was going to do. So he asked if he could come work with us, and being a 20-something, he's great with YouTube and podcasting. And so he decided, let me do that, Mom. So we took him to a podcast 4-day convention, came home on Sunday, and COVID hit on Tuesday, and everything shut down. And our clients who wanted to start podcasts kind of pulled back and weren't doing podcasting anymore. So we had all this great knowledge and we had to start something. So I started mine, as I mentioned, Grounding Journey, and it's all about the spiritual side of the journey. I'm a huge into yoga and meditation, and it's fun to just have these conversations with women that you would never meet otherwise. And I get to sit there and talk with them for an hour about their journey through spiritual exploration. And so it's really my passion project. It's what I get to do to have fun with the knowledge that I spend in my business.
Well, and tell us more about your business itself. And I love your podcast. What a great add-on to what you do. But what is it that you do day to day? I mean, what does an average work week look like for you? And how did you get there?
Absolutely. So I, as you mentioned, was in sales and marketing, and I've done that all my life. And I was in a job with sales and marketing. This is the funny part of the story because I'm such a storyteller. So I was in an industry that was the auto industry. And the only reason I was successful is because I was the only female within a 100-mile radius. And I was just tired of being in a boys' club. My son, I was a single mom at the time, and my son was in middle school, and I was terrified I wasn't going to be able to pay for his college. So I went back to school to get my graphic design degree. And while I was in graphic design, a friend recommended me to a friend who needed a little help, who then recommended me to another friend. And before I knew it, it was 2 years later, I had graduated and I had 17 clients. So this is where we say we accidentally started our business. And at that point, I was remarried to a great guy. He had been at a job for 10 years doing office warehouse management, not loving it. He had gotten another promotion. He was working 50 hours a week and I was working like 25. And so he quit his job on a whim, as we had been overseas for 2 weeks and came home, and I had gone to yoga and was just enjoying my morning and my relaxing time before I logged on. And I kind of pushed him to quit his job and come work for me. And so that was 2017. And we do, as I said, we call it a creative agency, non-agency, because we're a family, but we go anywhere from launching online programs, building content funnels. We work with a particular CRM management system. My husband is one of a handful in the country that are certified, and CRM is content relation management. So it's what holds all your sales pages, your opt-ins, your emails, and that kind of stuff. We actually just launched a huge national book on Amazon today. for one of our clients. So we kind of do all that stuff that bogs the people down and doesn't allow them to be creative. So we take over all that stuff and make it fun again for our clients because we believe so strongly that life should be fun. It shouldn't suck.
Life should not suck. Life should be fun. And I love how you said there was this like warehouse job and it was just like, this isn't fun anymore. Like this isn't for me. And a lot of us don't take the time to really evaluate whether or not what we're doing is what we are meant to do and what we find that we're passionate about. I did have a guest recently where we talked about you shouldn't just assume that your most fun hobby or the thing you are the most passionate about should be your job and how you make a living. There is a little bit of give and take. Sometimes it's best to leave your hobbies, not just because maybe the money isn't there, the revenue isn't there if you were to try to take it into career mode, but also because your hobby may not be that much fun if you have to do it. Sometimes hobbies are best when it's not an obligation and it's not something that you have other people, clients or teammates or colleagues expecting things from you. Hobbies might be something that you just want to keep for you, but finding something in your work life that you are passionate about, that is very important.
You're talking and I'm just shaking my head, because it is absolutely often we take our hobbies and try to make them into an income and we have a certain level we want, which is why like Grounding Journey is my passion project because I love yoga. I've done my yoga teacher training, but I don't want to be out there peddling yoga and trying to teach classes and get people to follow me. Like that takes the fun out of it. So you're 100% right. Like sometimes your love and your passion has to stay your love and your passion, and you find other ways to provide income for yourself.
And many of our listeners and, lots of people that I know have done that. And that's being multi-passionate is important because I have some things that are my hobbies and I absolutely love doing those things. And then I have other things they're things I enjoy, they're things that are good at, they're in my sort of sphere of excellence, things that I can bring a lot of value to. And that's where I focus my revenue generation attention to, and not necessarily trying to turn every one of my hobbies into something that makes a revenue.
Absolutely. When we've been working on this book launch this past week, there's been quite a few times I've done something and I'm like, wow, I felt really successful and good because I had a good idea and I saw it through. So you definitely want to find kind of, as you said, that niche, what you're good at, what you can feel successful at, because that sometimes replaces the need for it being your passion because you just get fulfillment out of it if you feel successful with what you're doing. For sure. And one of the things, because I love yoga, I'm a designer, I'm working on these yoga cards that are something people can use for their practice. And I've been working on them for a year and a half. And it has taken all the fun out of them because my husband kept saying, oh, well, this is what we'll do with that money. This is how we'll buy a new house. And it truly takes that fun out of the creative process when you feel that pressure. And so I had to walk away from them for a while to come back and be like, no, this is my passion project. Whatever happens with them, instead of putting all that weight on it.
And it's hard too, because it's easy to get caught up in that, especially if you have an entrepreneurial spirit and you're somebody who sees a business idea in everything. I mean, my husband is a pilot and he really loves small aircraft. And so he'll spend, a lazy afternoon flying up and down like the coast in this tiny, vintage aircraft, 2-seater, or he has a 4-seater as well. And one day I looked up, I'm like, oh, look, it's like a little airplane, just like yours. It's the same kind. And it's towing a banner for I think it was an insurance company. I was like, we should look into that. Like, why, since you're up there anyways, why don't you tow a banner and then you can write off your gas and kind of write off some expenses against your, whatever that income would be. And you're up there and it's fun. And that sounds great. And he looked at me like I'm crazy. He's like, that sounds awful. Like, I don't want to fly on a schedule. I don't want to worry about this banner. Do I have the latest one? Did they pay for this? I don't even know how much, it goes for. Honestly, I was like, let's do research. He's like, no, I'm going to stop you right there. I'm glad you said this before doing the research, because this is a no-go for me. This is something I do for fun. I'm not trying to turn it into some little side hustle business. And I immediately was like, oh, right. No, I was making that mistake of just assuming that everything that is your passion should somehow become like a revenue generator for you.
It's an easy mistake. I tell you, it's taken me a year with my life coach to get over it.
So tell me a little bit about, you have a lot of clients, and I'm sure there are outliers, like clients who are very unique in what they do and what you help them with, but give us like an average use case. Like someone comes to you and they're like, hey, I need your help. I want to grow my business. I want to grow visibility. What are some kind of the usual things that you would do for someone like that? And maybe give us some examples of some fun ones that you've done for your clients.
Absolutely. The one that we're working on today, it's so fun to talk to you today because when you and I talked previously, kind of about not being in the hustle, there are definitely times that you still have to hustle, but there's finding that balance of then there's times I don't have to hustle and I get to take 2 weeks off or just not work until noon. And that's what I love about working with online clients is we have so many across the different time zones that you're able to work different hours instead of just the 8 to 5. The one that we worked on today is he just launched a book on Amazon. When I looked a couple hours ago, he was at number 5 in one of his categories. So we're super excited about that. But this client in particular, he does MD, MA assisted therapy. So like psychedelics, plant medicine, which has been a whole new realm for us. MDMA is not plant medicine, but he does both, works with plant medicine out of the country. But it's been so educating to learn about his industry. So just bringing my skills of knowing how to launch a program, how to bring his team of 7 together. And instead of having all these ideas like word bubbles floating around in the sky, putting them on paper, prioritizing what's got to happen when, and creating a flow. So it's really strategic in what I've been doing with this particular team of, okay, you want to launch all this stuff at one time. That's crazy. Let's launch stuff a month apart. This is the elements you need. We can content create for you. You can then proof the content we create. I've worked over the years with life coaches, health coaches. We have some network marketers. We have another author. We have such a variety. We had a furniture company. We have a winery. So there's all these different industries. And that's what I love is learning about it, learning what avenue they come from. And this particular client is just on top of mind because it's so fresh. But I love taking all those ideas in the word bubbles and putting them on paper and making it a pattern and a form and a direction. Because when we don't have that path and we just have all these ideas, how many notebooks do we all have of all these ideas we're going to one day do? And it just feels so overwhelming that we never do it. And nothing ever happens. And we just keep adding more ideas to the list. So that's one of the things I really love working with clients. And then my husband takes all the content and actually uploads it and makes it deliverable. And then our son does all the editing or videos, things like that.
What a great team effort. I love that. And I love that it's a family business. And you're right. I mean, we have these notebooks, they're full of ideas, and that list keeps growing, but it's just like a to-do list. Unless you actually implement and check things off, that list is going to get overwhelming. It'll actually, I think, start to kind of drag down the soul, because it's like this big weight of undone goals. And that's great that you help people bring those things to fruition and get the ideas off the paper and into the real world. That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's really fulfilling. And I don't know where to throw this in the conversation, but just because we're talking about not always live into the hustle, this last week has been a hustle because this particular team has never actually launched anything into the world. So taking them and creating this complete book launch, working with their publisher and organizing it and all their team members, the way I celebrated today is I bought tickets to Europe for us for Christmas. And it was a great celebration kind of moment for me of like, okay, we've worked really hard. Now here's our balance and our reward for it.
Oh yeah, especially after the year of no travel. 2020 was a tough year. So rewarding yourself with some amazing travel, I can get behind that. That's for sure. So for you, first of all, you have such an eclectic mix of clients. I mean, that's so fun. When you said a winemaker, a winery, I was like, oh, if I had a winery client and I was trying to do their marketing, I'd probably tell them, look, I really can't market your wine until I've tasted it. So you've got to send me a bottle. Then I know really like what your wine's about.
Well, I have to share with you and hope the IRS isn't listening. She was actually my first client that I had when I was in school. And my husband, it's 20 minutes from our house, just close enough to get in trouble. And We had been out a couple times. We loved her wine. She had a huge following, but her website sucked. She didn't have anything out there on social media. So I asked her if I could work for her, but she was so up and coming that she didn't have the budget for me. So she pays me in wine, and it's really a win-win. Now many years later, she has a great following. Her business has done really well. So she actually pays me. But the first couple of years when I was a student and had a teenage son that I was paying for car insurance on, and she was paying me in wine, it worked out really well.
That's right. Yeah. We'll work for wine. I love it. That's great. Well, that's a great story. As you're saying, it's all about the stories. And I love that story. I can totally picture you posting on social media somewhere with a little sign that says, "We'll work for wine," and telling the story of your first client. And I actually kind of hope they are listening, because that's a fantastic story. So for you, how do you keep yourself sane? Because you are in that kind of field. I call it like a service industry, where you have clients, and your clients, they need you and they want you, and they can call you and they can email you. And some clients more than others are more demanding or expect a response time that's shorter. How do you keep yourself from getting completely pulled in every direction and overworked?
That's a great question. I ask myself that often. Well, and add into it that my son and my husband work for me, and it's my business, and I have all the training, and they just get thrown into the mix. So that adds a whole nother level of the pressure to it, because I'm the point person for all of our clients. I'm what makes sure the mortgage gets paid, because if I'm not connecting with the clients, then they don't have the work down the line. And it's taken time. It's taken time to understand my boundaries. It's taken clients who I didn't set firm boundaries with, who took advantage of me, and I was miserable and I quit working with them, for me to learn what building strong boundaries out of the gate meant and how vital they were, because you can't change the boundaries midway on a client and expect it to be okay. So definitely I spend my mornings either yoga, meditation, going to the gym. Yesterday it was really rainy, so I didn't get out of bed till 9, but making sure that I have that time for myself. And I define to my clients, this is the time that I'm available from noon to 6:30, and I'll have that 5:30 call with you, but know that I'm not available before this. And it's training yourself not to answer their text when they text you on a Saturday morning and need something. It's training myself. I have my business email address, and it doesn't come to my phone unless I'm on vacation, where I'm on a working vacation, because we have done many location independent trips for 20 days to a month. In 2019, we spent 50 days abroad. So those kind of trips, I'll have my phone emails delivered to my phone. But if I'm taking a long weekend, I don't want to see their email until I get back. And my favorite thing I say to my husband on a regular basis, nobody's life is hanging in the balance based on what we do. And so remembering that, to not take life so seriously, that having those boundaries. And then there's the flip side of, we were in this high pressure launch for the last 6 days. So I was super available to my clients, but I also knew and reminded them, remember, I'm not normally around this time. But I want them to feel comfortable and secure with me, so that those other times that I have the boundaries up, they're like, oh, she'll get to me because this isn't really that important.
Yeah, I love everything you're saying. I think if you're not intentional about this stuff, like if we don't have strategies in place, if we're not mindful of sort of how we work, it's so easy to get pulled and derailed in all directions. And the fact you just booked this big trip to Europe, you're doing it right. So what you're doing it right. We all need to listen and get ideas from you on how you do all this, because it really is the way to stay sane and to keep ourselves lifestyle solopreneurs instead of, becoming workaholic solopreneurs, which are so common. And I'm a big believer in sprints. So I don't think that you are an overworked person if you take some sprints, right? Mm-hmm. I think it's when people have no time to renew or refresh or self-care, and they just go nonstop. That's when it really becomes like a soul-sucking thing to work. But pulling a week-long, long-hour kind of week, that's fine. We actually, I think, as humans, function really well in sprints. And it's just when those are too prolonged that we really start to get beaten down spiritually.
Absolutely. And I have to be honest, like my long work week, when I put in extra hours, was I actually clocked in 6 billable hours a day instead of the 4. And this is just another side comment that it kind of felt right to say. I used to charge half of what I charge now because I didn't have the confidence. I had one client who saw me starting out, said, "This is what I'll pay." It was decent money, and I didn't have the confidence in myself. So I took what they were offering, and then that's what I charged to everybody. And I had a call with a coach who was a friend of a friend and who wrote a really neat book. And talking to him, I was working a lot more hours. I had a lot more clients. And he said to me, "I'll hire you. I don't care what quality you work, but just because of how cheap you are." And so he kind of helped me create this strategy over 6 months to raise my rate. I do believe I'm still slightly underneath the industry, but I do that because I work with a lot of other solopreneurs who are trying to get started. And I believe in the people who've given me a chance, and I want to support people who are starting themselves. But that's another key in not just finding the balance and the boundaries, but believing in what you're worth and charging it. And I'll tell you, when I went to raise my rates, I doubled my rates. I had 5 or 6 really good clients who spent several $1,000s a month with me. So their budget just doubled. I was terrified I was going to lose them all. I wrote them a really nice letter, gave them 3 months notice that I was raising my rates, and I did not lose a single one of them. One of them took me out to lunch and we had wine to celebrate that I was finally charging what I was worth. So there's that other element too in believing you are what you're worth.
What a great story about pricing and your worth as a business, pricing your product, pricing yourself as a service provider. I recently bought some shampoo, and it was it's like this special shampoo. It comes in a bar instead of a bottle, and there's a story behind it. And I remember looking at the price tag going, "Whoa, that's pricey for shampoo." But I really kind of believed in the promise, and the marketing was good and the reviews seemed great. And I was like, let me just take a chance. And I think they could have probably made the mistake of pricing themselves too low, thinking, "Oh, we just want to make sure people actually buy our stuff." But they are premium, and it's a great product. And I think they were right to price themselves premium because they are premium. And hey, I bought it. I opened my wallet. So I love pricing discussions and that conversation. It's an art, not a science. And it's so easy to undervalue yourself, especially when you're starting out as an entrepreneur or with some new product or new service on the market.
Absolutely. And the thing we have to believe in, as you did with buying shampoo of value, if we believe that we're of value, we have to honor what other people are and their value and make sure that we're paying fair prices, because we all want that circle of life kind of treatment.
And the abundance is out there. It really is. I mean, we really can't play life with a scarcity mindset in any realm. I mean, whether it's financial or love or happiness, right? It's not a zero-sum game. There's enough for everybody, for sure.
Absolutely. And it goes back to that life shouldn't suck. Like, believe that you're worth it. Believe other people are worth it. And you find that depth of life. Have your passion, have something you feel good about, and still have that depth in life.
And so for you, with what you do with your family, is it hard to separate business time from family time? Because it would be so easy you're having dinner and to talk about a client, or, "Oh, did you do this?" Or, "Yeah, I got that done." And to kind of let it bleed over a little. There's more danger of that in a small family business like yours than there would be if you had some other team that you don't eat every meal with.
That may be why our son stopped eating lunch with us every day. It definitely, it's like boundaries. It takes time to build. And I'm going to call my husband out, and I swear he knows it. I'm not talking bad about him. I've been doing this for a lot longer, and I've worked from home for a lot longer. So I had a lot of these patterns and a lot of these boundaries set. He struggles with it more. He has taken a while longer to stop answering the email at, Saturday at 7:30. So there's definitely that learning ebb and flow. What has your experience been in trying to learn to have that I mean, I guess you and your husband don't work together, but having that conversation about work, because if you don't have these great passions to talk about, what do you talk about? That's a relationship thing.
It is. I mean, for me, I have sort of a built-in separation there just because my husband finds a lot of what I do to be absolutely either boring or just completely out of his interest zone. Like if I was to tell him I'm going to record your voice and put it on Apple Podcasts, he would blanch and just be like, why would anyone do that to me? That would be the meanest thing ever. So for him, like the thought of me spending this time right now talking to you so that we can share this conversation with all of the listeners of the show would be torture to him. So there's nothing for me to talk about with him about like, oh, and then, I found a new podcast editor, or, hey, there's this cool new software. I think I'm going to move my hosting from A to B. Like for him, all of that, he'd glaze over. So it's really great because my work life can't really bleed into our personal time. When we hang out at dinner or whatnot, we're usually chatting about things that anyone would, outside of work. So that's fun. But I know that's not the case for everybody, especially when spouses work together or just are in the same field. Or I know a lot of couples where both spouses are lawyers, let's say, and then they don't work at the same firm. They're not working on the same cases, but they still kind of talk shop, theoretical stuff, or just, oh, did you hear what happened about this other case or this judge or whatever? So it's a challenge, but my challenge to everyone listening is evaluate and see if that is a problem. If you're not separating enough from work versus your personal time and also your family time and your relationship time, not just with family, but also friends, and just really kind of being present for people outside of work.
It's definitely a challenge. I definitely think it's a relationship thing, not just a work thing. You've got to like each other enough, and you've got to have other things to talk about and other things you do together. Read a book together. Give yourself something to talk about.
And I love now on road trips, a book on tape, an audio book. It's not on tape. I don't know why you called it on tape. I don't think anyone knows what tape is anymore, but a book on Audible or one of those apps. And it's fun to you can't watch TV as you drive, but everyone in the car can listen and take part in that same story. And it's great for kids too. Much better, I think, than passing a kid an iPad and letting them watch something would be to let them listen to a story so they can use their imagination to flesh it out.
Well, so my in-laws are in North Carolina and they traveled to New Jersey to visit, that's where they moved from. So she reads to him while they drive. And so even better than just listening to an Audible, she actually reads. I couldn't read that long without feeling sick, but that's a great idea for you to bring up. Thanks for reminding me about that.
Sure. Any tips or apps or techniques that you love that help you either be more productive or just maintain some sanity, or other than yoga? I know yoga is probably one of your most treasured go-tos, but do you have anything else?
And this isn't always for everybody, I love meditation and breath work. Just taking a couple minutes and deep breathing, because you move your body. It makes you so much more present in what you're doing. And my husband and I took swing dance lessons pre-COVID. So I also have a timer set on my phone at 3:00 that goes off, and I go into his office and we have a whole bunch of swing music on our computers and we do a dance. And then I go back to my office and he goes back to his desk. So that's always fun because we're not very good at it. It's been 1.5 years since we've been in lessons. So we make a lot of mistakes and we laugh a lot. So finding that something that's light and cheerful, or I go play with my dog. I love to throw the ball for my dog.
Great. Well, great ways to bring more play into your everyday and into the middle of your workday too. That's fantastic. Quick question. There's people listening who are either really wanting to listen to the podcast that you put out. Maybe they need your services. How do people connect with you, follow you, get in touch with you?
Oh, thank you so much for letting me share. My podcast is Grounding Journey. It's available on Spotify, Apple, Amazon. You can also find it at groundingjourney.com. If there's anybody out there who would love to talk about their spiritual journey, I have a little link on my website or on Instagram where you can send me an email. I'd love to talk to you about it. And then our creative agency is called CMG for Creative Marketing and Graphics. So it's cmgideas.com. I'm not great on social media with that, but you can message me through Facebook or find us on our website. So I would love for you to check out the podcast. That's really my passion project. And that's what this is all about, is being fun.
Well, I think everyone should do that immediately after listening to this show. Connect with Criss. And also, as Criss recommended, take a few deep breaths.
Yes.
As soon as this episode is over, I would say take 10 deep breaths, ground yourself, pay attention to where you are, be present, and then move on with your fantastic day. Criss, it has been so good to have you on today, and I can't wait to speak to you again later.
Thanks so much for the conversation.
Guess what, lifestyle solopreneurs? If you don't yet have an online business earning you enough passive income to live the life of your dreams, I'd like to suggest you consider trying out Kajabi. Kajabi is an all-in-one solution where you can create and teach online courses, publish a paid newsletter, launch a free or paid podcast, process payments, build one-on-one coaching portals for your clients, and much, much more. I personally use Kajabi to power numerous successful and profitable online businesses. Lifestyle solopreneurs, there's a free trial of Kajabi waiting for you at this link, www.kfreetrial.com. You can try Kajabi for free, no obligation, by going to www.kfreetrial.com. Again, kfreetrial.com, and that K stands for Kajabi. Starting an online business helped me break free from that corporate grind, and I hope it does the same for you. You have nothing to lose and absolutely everything to gain. Thanks so much for tuning in today. Don't forget to subscribe to the show, and see you next time.